someone else, who's filling in for someone else, who's on vacation.
My phone is exploding.
Oh, what for?
Well, we're going live, and so
Everybody's getting excited.
You're on Facebook right now.
we're on Facebook right now. We're on the book.
We don't have Margot today either, to churn the audience up.
Okay.
Yes,
What's
the
she doing?
She had things to do today, I believe.
famous social networking site Bookface.
Yes. Bookface. Okay. I think. Are you guys ready?
Sure.
I'm ready.
All right, Juan, the man.
Warning, the Catholic Man Show is about to begin. If you're looking for a dull, feel-good religion, or clap your hands, sit around the campfire kumbaya, you've come to the wrong place. We are dealing with toxic levels of authentic masculinity. I would say good luck, but luck is for pagans.
Welcome, one and all, to the Catholic Man Show. We're on the Lord's team, the winning side, so raise your glass. I'm Adam Minahan, sitting here with Mr. Cooler Than the Other Side of the Pillow, David Niles.
Yo.
To my right, to my left is Father Sean Donovan, and we are going to have... Is your mic okay, Dave? Are you...
It's all right. I'm just fixing it.
Okay. Nice. We have an awesome show for you today. I can't wait to talk about the Winged Hussars. In fact, we had a special segment a year ago talking with Father Sean Donovan. And
Was it only a year ago? I was thinking it was even 2 years ago.
Maybe 2 years ago. And we realized this should just be a show. This is too good.
Next time this comes around.
And so I wanted to make sure we blocked off. I actually sent you an email, Father, like 2 months ago or a month and a half ago?
Yeah,
like
just to make sure.
Just to make sure that you were available, because this is going to be such a fun topic. One that I had no idea about until Father Sean Donovan talked to us about it.
Yeah.
So
He came on, and we did some extra content and just basically blew our minds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's wild. Isn't it a crazy story?
It is crazy.
And almost nobody knows about it.
Yeah.
So much so that you actually talk to Catholics and they'll say things like, because I'll say briefly, I'm going to be on the Catholic Man Show. We're going to talk about the different, like the relationship between September 11th, 1683 and September 11th, 2001. They're like, so did you make that up?
Yeah. Well,
no.
I
didn't.
No, I did not.
When Dave was telling somebody after Holy Mass today, he was telling them, like, here's what we're going to talk about. And they were like, I had no idea of any of this kind of... We were talking about, like, we're going to talk about the Winged Hussars. We're going to talk about croissants. We're going to talk about 9/11. We're going to talk about Our Lady and how they all connect. And there was just like, what?
What? Yeah.
Yeah, Mary, 9/11, and croissants. One event, people. One event.
That's right.
Dave, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Today is your birthday.
33. You know, I really feel like this is the year I will achieve perfect virtue.
It was so...
This is it.
So,
me and Jesus, you know, I feel like
year.
connection to him.
Well,
or
you know,
something.
Ben Franklin had a similar approach, right? He said that he was going to approach a different virtue and perfect it.
Each
year for 10 years. You heard this story.
Mm-hmm.
You notice the one virtue that was off of his list.
Humility.
Because he was not David Giles Niles.
That's right.
If they used your saint of the day, because St. Giles is
David
today.
Humble. Yeah, it was
That's
so
right.
funny that the readings were all about humility today on my birthday. But I just feel like
It was right and just.
If
Dave.
I
it was
don't-
truly right and just.
if I don't achieve perfect virtue this year, it's just not going to happen at all.
That's right.
That's how I feel.
Are you saying you're dying this year?
No, I just think, you know, if it doesn't happen now, it's probably never going to happen. Because this is the 30.
We can hope.
You know, 33, me and Jesus. You know, speaking of humility, Saint Bernard, however you want to say his name, of Clairvaux, he said that the three most important virtues are humility, humility, and humility. And what do we learn from this? that Saint Bernard couldn't count. He was terrible at math.
He was
That's
really
right.
bad at math.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the takeaway. Anyway,
So you also have wine.
Yeah, can we get into this? Because this is very
I would
exciting.
like to.
Juan, will you go to the Bev cam really fast? So if you look on, you can go to YouTube or you can go to Facebook Live and check out our video right now. We have the Catholic Man Show wine that we're going to have today. It's called the Winged Hussar Red wine by the Catholic Man Show. Now, this is a Cabernet wine that's been soaked in Buffalo Trace bourbon barrels.
Ooh.
So-
Aged, would you say?
Yeah, aged would be better than soaked. Yes. Yes. And our artwork was done by Jason Zimdars, who is a Council of Man member. He supports the Catholic Man Show. He's out of Oklahoma City. You can go to patreon.com/the Catholic Man Show to support us. And the only reason why we're able to have something like this, like our own wine, is from supporters. They were able to. There you go, Dave. Yeah, they support us. Everything that we're given on the Catholic Man Show goes right back into the show. Dave and I do not take a cut. So we're able to do this, and we're about to be able to launch it worldwide. Well, maybe I shouldn't say worldwide, at least throughout the country. The legality of sending wine across state lines is a little difficult because each state has their own alcohol laws. So we have to make sure that we are abiding by law. Well done.
That was a good sound.
That was a good
It's one
sound.
of the best sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're about to be able to launch it. We're going to be going to the winery that makes this Water's Edge wine for us and having an official launch party here pretty soon.
Did you have to do a lot of tasting to pick out your kind
We
of
did.
wine?
Yeah.
We did a lot of tasting, which
That's really tough.
it was
It's
it was a cross that we bared, but we bared it well.
Wow.
Yes.
That's excellent.
Did
Did your wives help?
They did.
They did actually.
Good.
Yes.
Good.
So
Faithful wives.
anyway, we're really excited about this wine. We're really excited to get it out to everybody. Like I said, it's a red cab that's aged in Buffalo Trace bourbon barrels. Buffalo Trace is an excellent bourbon whiskey. If you like Weller's or Pappy's or Blanton's, any of those whiskeys are all distilled by the same distillery, Buffalo Trace. So anyway, without further ado, Dave, you ready? Let's do this. One of the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass.
Cheers to Jesus.
Cheers.
Cheers.
And to the country of Poland.
Yes. So I'm anxious just to see what you think.
Oh, that's good. It's different.
Yeah.
It's good. And who composed that toast of yours?
Saint Benedict did.
No.
Soon to be saint. Pope Benedict the 16th.
You're right.
Right.
Pope Benedict. Yes. Not Pope Saint Benedict,
Right. Not yet.
as someday he may be
He may
known.
well be.
But he's not even dead yet, so
Not yet.
you know. Pope Benedict.
Thanks be to God, we need him in the church.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Very holy
There,
man.
I've heard some people say that they think he stands a shot at being considered a doctor of the church someday,
Yep.
just because his writings have been very influential.
Dave,
but anyway,
tell us about the wine.
I love this wine. It's super, super good. When you drink it, you can tell that is not a $5, $10 bottle of wine. I mean, I've said it before. I'll say it again. Everything's better aged in bourbon barrels. I'm considering aging my own children in bourbon barrels, and this is no exception.
What do you think, Padre?
I think if you like whiskey and you like wine, you're gonna like this.
Yes, but the whiskey's not too strong.
No, it's not.
I've had some wines that have been aged in bourbon barrels that's like it's so strong it's like stings the nostrils.
Right? Yeah.
No, this is very, very
Did you say
smooth.
wine? That's that way? Because I've
Yes.
even had some beer that's like, wow, okay, I get it. You put it in bourbon barrels.
Right.
But this is 14.2% alcohol, so it's higher than the average 12%, 11 or 12% wine.
But it's very smooth. And it's not acrid. Sometimes wines will just smell bad even before you even taste them.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
Yeah.
Well done.
One thing about wine that I did not know when we were going through the wine tasting process, we were taught a few things. One, if you'd like more, you ask, "Can I revisit this wine?"
Yeah.
Revisit
You don't
it.
you don't ask.
Wow.
You say, "Can I have more wine?" You say, "I think I'd like to revisit that wine."
Wow.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
All
Also, when you smell the wine, you actually smell on the top end of the glass,
Yeah, so if you tilt it towards you,
and then smell the top end.
you want to kind of smell around the top of the glass.
It changes.
You
like
get
if
you
put
get
your-
the fruit. That's where you can pick up the fruity notes. And on this one, I'm getting some grape.
maybe some red grapes.
Yeah, maybe Cabernet grape. I don't know. I could be
Yes.
wrong about that, but
This wine tastes red.
But you can drink it alone like we are, or you can drink it with a steak would go very well.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So there's actually a scientific reason why you would drink wine with steak. Okay. You know how? Imagine if you were to swish your mouth around with some vegetable oil or olive oil.
Let's not do that.
I mean, but it would coat your mouth, right? You wouldn't be. It's not like you could just spit it out and now the oil's out of your mouth. It's gonna be all over.
Sure.
Okay, so when you eat a steak, the fat in the steak has a tendency to do that because it's the fatty oil that will coat your mouth will do that to your tongue and your mouth, okay? And so the acidity of the wine acts like soap to oil and actually cuts that layer of fat that might be building up on your tongue. So you drink wine with your steak so that you can continue to taste your steak better. Because your first bite of steak, it just tastes the best. I mean, and that's for other reasons as well. Because
it's
you're
steak.
hungriest.
Yeah,
Yeah. And there's diminishing returns, with this kind of thing.
All
but,
good things.
But the red wine, there's a scientific reason. It doesn't just taste good together. Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't know that until Brian Dean told us.
Oh, yeah.
So, anyway, yeah. So, Winged Hussar Red Wine by the Catholic Man Show. We're gonna have this available first to our Patreon members for anybody who supports us, but then to the public as well. I'm really excited. I'm really hoping we can get this going within the next 2 to 3 weeks. Like I said, we're in the process of finalizing the legalities of everything.
Yeah.
We wanna make sure that we do not break the law.
Totally. Because I want to stay out of prison and stuff.
But when we get back, we're going to jump straight into the topic. We're not going to have a man gear today. We're going to jump straight into the topic, talking about the Winged Hussars, croissants, Our Lady, 9/11, Muslims,
And coffee.
and coffee. Hang in there. We're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass. Cheers. 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 Have you all had a chance to drink this before?
Oh, yeah, Jim, it's your first time. What do you think?
What do you think? Yeah.
Do you drink wine?
Just a little bit, but when I'm drinking it, I try to get the bourbon barrel
Yeah, me too.
wines. So.
Good. Those are my favorite. Hence this one.
What do you think, Juan? You've had it before, but what do you think?
I like it better now than I did that day. For
Really?
some reason. Yeah.
Well, I love
Oh,
the...
you know what? Since I was drinking the keto coffee with the oil, as soon as I had it, I felt it like cleans everything. So.
That's because you had a half a stick of butter in your coffee.
Only to get it.
He literally showed. He's like, "Look how much butter I have in my coffee." And I looked, and there was about maybe half an inch layer of
Oh, yeah, dude.
of butter on the top.
It's delicious.
Well,
I mean,
butter is
Butter is
delicious.
good.
I mean, imagine it's like, oh, we put more butter in it. Is that going to be bad? No.
Cream and sugar.
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so how do you want to broach the topic, Father?
So, let's see. Probably with Protestantism bringing in a weakness across Europe with the splintering of Christianity,
Yeah.
1450 to 1650. And there's actually a book called Reformations by Carlos Ayer that's really fantastic. It's about this big. Thomas Lackey recommended it to me, so I'm working on it right now.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic.
He would.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's only 4 inches thick.
That's
Right.
it. But so it's only like 42 hours of listening on Audible.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah. And
I finished Deerslayer today.
So I'm like an hour into it because I just got it, and it's fantastic. But it is notable that both Lepanto and Vienna, these full-on attacks of Europe happen after the Reformation, right? So after Luther decides to start splintering with the church, we're kind of sitting ducks. We can't even, get along with each other. So there's great weakness now. Now you can strike Europe and maybe win because they're just fighting amongst themselves.
Yeah.
So first start by ship. That didn't work. Then you're going to invade by land with Vienna. And then we can get into, okay, well, this is one of the most bizarre battles ever because you have a lot of buildup. You have a siege for a couple of months, and it's all over in 24 hours.
Did the Muslims at this time, did they have a caliph who was over everybody? Or?
Oh, this is interesting too. They weren't really, they were fighting with each other, but they weren't necessarily with each other.
Should we save this for the episode?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not bad to, get some of your questions kind of ready too. So like, yes and no. Now the Sultan put this Grand Vizier, Kara Mustafa, he kind of gave him the green light to say, sure, go where Suleiman couldn't, because he had tried to attack Vienna a century and a half before. He said, okay, well, I'm going to go do what Suleiman the Magnificent couldn't do. So they gave him the green light, but you have Tartars, like the Tartars, like tartar sauce, coming in from Russia, and they're Muslims too, but they're not necessarily going to take all of their orders from the Ottoman Turks. So if the Ottomans brush them off or ignore them or insult them, then the Tartar leader, Tartar Khan, said, yeah, I saw those Polish going over the bridge towards Vienna. I could have attacked them. Screw that guy. I don't like that guy. If they want to kill him, yeah, he's a bad general anyway. Yeah. So even some of the Muslim historians were like, couldn't you have helped stop the Polish before they crossed the river? He's like, yeah.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah, could have helped.
Yep. But I was right in the middle of my coffee. And
Right. Sounds like France when Germany was invading as well.
Oh, and then it's even more complicated because then you have some of the Protestants collaborating with the Muslim invaders. Both the Hungarians and the French were collaborating, not just with money, but also with guns, for the invading Muslims.
That was really dumb on their part because it's like, what do you think they're going to do when they win?
Now, I don't want to.
Right.
Like, I want to make sure
tax
we don't
you big time.
I want to make sure that we don't get too deep into the weeds where we don't have actual time to talk about the Hussars.
So it sounds like we're starting circa 4000 BC, Adam and Eve.
Right.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we could always just say,
For all of you young earthers out there, anyway.
like, to realize that this is not the first attack on Vienna. This is not the first major assault into Europe. This is just the last major assault into Europe. And the last time that they tried to attack the West in general, in between basically 1683 and 9/11, 2001.
Yeah, I do
Right,
think
because I
it's
want to make
important.
sure we talk about 9/11, 2001,
Right.
the connection.
Right.
Then
The fact that also, like, the Poles, they show up and they start consulting with the Germans and some of the other Catholics, and he shows up pretty much on the brink of Vienna on September the 8th, Mary's birthday. Right? So, like, this is not just happenstance. This is providence. So, yeah, getting into that the king, Jan Sobieski, not just, some reports say that he heard mass before he rode into battle. Others say he decided to serve the mass, and then he rode into battle.
Sweet.
So, yeah. So we'll cover those things too. It's like no. Like these, also all these books, pretty much, especially this one to a lesser extent. Because
don't let me forget to take pictures of these books. So that way
Yeah.
I can put it in our show notes. So that
Yeah.
as more references.
Absolutely.
Don't let me forget that.
They make it clear that this is not mere politics. We're fighting for the faith and the defense of Christendom.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
So I think it's important that we do at least cover Lepanto,
yeah,
just so for context.
right. This
Yeah.
is not the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I have no idea where we're starting still. Protestants,
Maybe.
Maybe.
possibly.
Right.
We'll see. Let's just see what happens.
Maybe I'll just introduce this book and talk about how, like, you have 8 major battles going back to the 600s between Islam and the West.
Okay.
And that way you can say, like, and the last one covered is Vienna.
Okay.
So it was like, this is nothing new.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
you go.
And welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles, here with Adam Minahan and our friend Father Sean Donovan. Father Sean, virtually every time I talk to you, you blow my mind about something.
All right.
At least I learn quite a bit.
In
every time I talk
fact,
to him.
The first time you blew my mind was on Labor Day 3 years ago. At the wiffle ball tournament, which is tomorrow.
Oh, that is tomorrow. Yeah.
Yes.
I wish I'd love to
Yeah.
go, but I won't
Yeah.
be there.
I've been brushing up on my pitches.
Nice.
Yeah, via YouTube. I mean, I don't
Wow.
I don't actually own a wiffle ball, so
But you're learning
I
technique.
can't practice.
If only you had children,
Yeah.
Oh, I do.
then
but
you could buy a wiffle ball.
well, I have girls.
That's okay.
They can
Girls
swing.
Can play sports.
They can swing. We have a T-ball. We have a T. Anyway. Thank you for being here. I just know we're going to blow everybody's mind today.
Yeah.
Even if you've heard this story before, it's still mind-blowing to just hear all the facts laid out well again.
So, would you summarize the show like you did right after Mass? What did you say they were going to cover? So that we're going to cover.
Okay, we're going to talk about Mary, 9/11, croissants, and coffee,
And Hussars.
and the Winged Hussars.
Right.
Mainly the Winged Hussars.
Yeah.
That's what the show is.
Yeah, you could say that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a great book that I'd recommend that we have some laid out here on the table. There's a great book that I came across recently called Sword and Scimitar by Raymond Ibrahim. And he's written a number of books, and he was also a librarian at I think it was actually the Libraries of Congress. But anyway,
Okay.
so he's a scholar who's translated texts that have never been translated from both Arabic and Greek, and he's covering 14 centuries of war between Islam and the West. And so it goes back to the beginning and the roots of conflict in jihad. What does that mean? He also is able to explain basically the whole theology behind sleeper cells, right? In something called Taqiyya. And so there are 8 chapters, 8 battles, 4 wins, 4 losses. And the last one is the Siege of Vienna, which we've spoken about before. And so that was in 1683. That was one of the attempts to invade Europe through Vienna. And that was the last major battle for the West, between the West and Islam. And in that bibliography of that book, I've got a few other books to back it up. Probably the most helpful is John Stoy's The Siege of Vienna. And he is a scholar from Magdalen College in Oxford. And the entire book is just about this battle. So these others are kind of more surveys, like Islam at the Gates by Dan Mokhtar. And then you have Enemy at the Gate, Andrew Wheatcroft.
I saw that movie.
Yeah, I think it's different.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then we also have a text from the early 1700s, 1711, and it actually has an early account of these battles, including what happened after, spoiler alert, the Muslims lost. So anyway, so that's pretty great to have such an older text for it. So how about you all tell me the story of the Winged Hussars as you tell your family, like Juan tells his kids before they dress up for Halloween. How do you tell the story of the Winged Hussars, and I'll fill in some gaps or add a little bit of color commentary. How about that?
I'll do it.
Yeah, you go ahead.
All right.
Okay. So when I tell the story, I say, first, you've heard of the Battle of Lepanto. Almost everybody has heard of the Battle of Lepanto. Not everybody's heard of the Battle of Vienna.
Right.
Yeah, they don't know.
Yeah.
In that you could just say, oh, well, have you heard of the Battle of fill in the blank? You know, it's like there's a lot of battles.
Right.
Doesn't mean anything to them. So, I'll say the Muslims, they got in all these boats. They tried to come and invade Europe. They didn't anticipate Spain having some nice boats themselves,
Have a big naval fleet.
and also praying the rosary so well, because the Battle of Lepanto was won by praying the rosary.
And the winds actually changed.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. There's a lot of details.
Yeah,
I don't
that
go,
we won't go into.
I don't go into it, because they say, oh yeah.
Yeah.
So then that's where we get the feast, Our Lady of the Rosary, from that big important victory.
October 7th, next month.
So then the Muslims, they regrouped and said, fine, we'll just march all the way up there. You can't stop us then, because we outnumber you by a lot.
Right.
And that seemed to be working pretty well.
Yeah.
Really. So when they get to Vienna, the king of France, is Vienna its own country?
No, so the capital of Austria and the Holy Roman Emperor was kind of in charge.
Where
of
is
everything.
Vienna? I don't even know where it is.
Eastern Austria.
Okay.
Yeah.
The king of Austria, or whoever it was,
Right.
sent word to all the allies saying, send troops, we're going to be overrun. And they basically all said no, because if they send their troops, then there'll be no one to guard their own kingdom when the Muslims
Which
arrive.
is kind of Bush League, right? Because they all made a pact ahead of time, saying
Yeah.
like, "Hey, if we get attacked, you guys bring all your guys in, so that way we can overthrow that. We can win."
Right,
But no one stuck to their pact.
right, except for Poland. And I think that it's not that they didn't send anybody, but
just-
it wasn't.
Did the Turks just show up on 9/11, or how did that work? Do you remember how the battle worked? So they showed up a couple months ahead of time.
No, I mean, this is just the way I sum it up for
Okay.
the elevator.
Right.
But go ahead and fill in.
So they laid siege for a couple of months. So they dug trenches all the way around the city walls of Vienna, and they decided to wear them down. So if you lay siege, then you're eventually gonna run out of all the major necessities. You're gonna run out of food. You're gonna run out of munitions, and then eventually you're gonna surrender. So that's the whole idea behind siege. If you can't take it on a full frontal attack. Also, part of the reason why it was Mustafa, right? So this leader of the Turkish army, he decided that he was going to lay siege pretty much for greed, because there was this general rule, an agreement in Islam and Muslim armies, that if the commander says, we're going to have an all-out attack, then that means that anybody who actually makes it into the walls of the city can plunder anything they want. But if they surrender to the army, then the general decides where does all the treasure go.
Ah,
Yeah. So that's why he wouldn't do these major attacks either. Partially because he wasn't sure if they would work, partially because he wanted to keep Vienna for himself.
I see.
Yeah. So anyway, this is going on for a couple of months, and not a lot of people are showing up.
Right? Everybody's sending in their B League.
Right.
You know, everybody's sending like they'll say like, "Oh yeah, we'll help you because that's our pact." But they're sending the bare minimum, the guys who didn't make varsity.
Yeah, the
know,
backup
They're
stream.
not getting
Yeah.
a whole lot of help.
Yeah, they're riding the pine for the most part.
It's pretty bad. And then what happens?
So the Polish did decide to send their best warriors, which were known as the Winged Hussars. They were a cavalry unit, and they wore these huge wings on their back as they would charge into battle that had feathers on them, and so when they rode, it would make this whooshing sound, and so you could actually hear them coming.
Which intimidated people.
Right, and they had, I'm sure, they were well known for if you have a 100-year undefeated streak. I mean, that's
Pretty good.
seems like something people would know about if you're in the battling business.
Yeah.
And so they left. They departed Poland from the shrine of Our Lady of Czestochowa and marched all the way to Vienna, arriving on September 8th, which is Mary's birthday. And then they charged in on the 12th of September and basically just decimated
And
the armies.
what were they saying as they charged?
Oh, right. They invoked the holy name of Mary and then charged. You can't forget that part.
That's a big part.
It's a very important part. Yeah.
And they were very much outnumbered.
Oh,
The Hussars were
yeah.
very
They
much
were-
outnumbered.
They were a small.
Oh yeah, but the
Band.
the great thing is that and Jan Sobieski, the king of the Poles, he realized what a bad general Kara Mustafa was, because probably partially because of his own pride, he didn't actually defend his own camp at all. He put it all against the wall of Vienna. So there's this huge forest right next to Vienna. He didn't even guard against a flanking attack through the forest. He just put everybody against the wall and the siege works. And so the Polish show up along with Leopold and the rest of the Holy Roman Empire and some of the Germans, and they're like, this guy didn't even defend himself from us.
What an idiot!
Well, granted, we're gonna have to go through this forest, but hey, we're gonna go through
this
the
is
forest.
War 101.
We should
Yeah.
just be able to walk up to him.
This is great. So they flank him through the forest, but then when they get about all the way through the forest on the late night of September 11th, then Jan Sobieski is disappointed because he sees, oh, the maps weren't exactly right. It's not a flat field of battle. We have to go down these cliffs. So he starts to, his engineer, who's French, said, maybe we should just go around, or maybe we should try another strategy. And because that was a bit of a curveball right at the last minute.
What kind of? Are we talking cliffs here, like
So
sheer?
precipice. So it might, your horses might turn their ankles.
A really steep,
Steep enough that they may not be able to handle with horses.
but not straight down. You're not falling.
Yeah,
just
not like maybe cliffs. Maybe
like
just enough to make it a problem.
a serious issue.
Right.
And this is on September 11th.
Yes. This is the late night hours of September 11th.
You know what I picture in my head is in the Lord of the Rings when Gandalf shows up with the Rohirrim
Yeah.
and charges down into the battle.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was inspired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
think-
so we're going to pick up on this story on the other side of the break.
yes.
That's a good...
If we don't,
idea.
I don't know what the rest of the episode will be about.
We'll be right back.
Listo? Questions?
Can you release your son?
Is he in bed?
He doesn't want to come out.
Oh. Hey, Luke, you can get out of bed, bud. You don't have to stay in bed. You can go downstairs. Jude's watching Dino Trucks.
Dino trucks?
Is that a
Yeah.
thing? I didn't know that was even a thing.
What?
Yeah.
Are the trucks
Oh, yeah.
Dinosaurs?
driven by dinosaurs or the trucks themselves?
It's kind of like Transformers that are dinosaurs. Think Transformer dinosaurs.
Well, actually,
Construction dinosaurs.
they made a movie about Transformers being dinosaurs. Actually,
They did?
yeah, one of them, like the old ancient Transformers were all
Well, that's kind of what
dinosaurs.
that show is about.
Also, Power Rangers was kind of that.
Your description is bad.
Oh.
They don't transform into them.
Oh, yeah.
No, they're not. They don't transform into like cars or anything like that. But
Oh, this is good. They have this book actually has, like I said, previously untranslated first person documentation.
Okay.
So they're not second sources, right? These are primary sources. This is a quote from King Sobieski. When he looks at how badly encamped and defended the Muslims are, he says, this man is badly encamped. He knows nothing of war. We shall certainly defeat him." And then Mustafa ordered a few more cannons and troops positioned against the Kallenberg, which is the wall, though kept the best of the both besieging Vienna against the advice of his generals, still going against the wall when his generals were like, you should probably defend yourself. It would fall at any moment now, the vizier insisted, and he was not about to quit. As an added precaution, he ordered all adult males among the 30,000 Christian slaves in the Ottoman camp massacred, lest they somehow aid their co-religionists. While the Muslim fighters ravished the young maids and women, so they raped them and then cut off their heads of the old men and women.
yikes!
Yeah.
They raped the old men and women?
They raped the women for sure, and then they cut off the heads of the old women and men. And by afternoon, there was a lunchtime break because it was really hot. Everybody just kind of took their breath around noon, which is so weird for a battle. And then the wearied and would-be liberators paused. It was then that a large white banner emblazoned with a red cross appeared on the opposite slope, the Poles, loudly calling in divine aid, and appearing to the Turks like, quote, a flood of black pitch coming down the mountain, consuming everything it touched. And that was a quote
Pretty
from
sweet.
the Turks describing them coming at them. So anyway, so Sobieski, he was kind of a fat old man by this point, actually. He wasn't like a really young fighter, but he went out in front of his troops, kept an eye on the hard-to-miss and ostentatious tent of Mustafa. Mustafa actually had this big flag of Islam right next to his tent. And so it's kind of like a bullseye. You can just be like, there he is.
Oh, look.
Yeah, let's go get Mustafa.
That one.
So, which further stood out by the green flag of Islam. Once it, the Sultan had imparted him. Once it came within range, he caused all of his artillery to fire upon that pavilion. And a few of the Ottomans ever expected enemy fire to reach the very heart of their city-like camp. And in the chaos, Sobieski spied the weakness in the Muslim line and ordered the history's largest cavalry charge straight through it to the Grand Vizier's tent. So, anyway, so I think we should probably use a couple of those
Yeah,
quotes,
you'll have
'cause
to
they're
repeat
just-
some of that.
They're too
Yes.
good.
Okay. I agree.
Juan? Can I call you Juan Don?
Don't want.
Okay. Just checking. In Spanish, though, doesn't the descriptor go after the thing?
Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. Sitting here sipping the very first bottle of Winged Hussar Red by the Catholic Man Show. A Cabernet that's aged in Buffalo Trace bourbon barrels. The very first bottle. I was thinking like I should save it for a long time, but this episode was just too good.
Yeah,
It
this
was-
is the
It was
right
very
time. This is it.
apropos to open the bottle.
Yeah.
So when we left on the break, it was September 11th, late night.
Right.
Muslims had gone through the forest.
The Christians had? Yeah.
The Christians had gone through the forest, and they're about to get attacked.
The steep cliffs.
So, yeah, Sobieski
The
sees
steep hills, anyway.
Steep
Hills.
hills, some precipices that were not in the maps. So he was not happy. But then he looks at the enemy camp. He looks at Mustafa's camp, and he sees he has no defenses. So this is a quote from Sobieski, the king of Poland. Quote, "This man is badly encamped. He knows nothing of war. We shall certainly defeat him." And then...
It's just a funny thing to say when you're looking at... I mean, how big was the Muslim army?
So it was still larger than the 70,000 fighters of the Christians. So
Certainly. I mean, it would have been hundreds of thousands,
some of
right?
them ballpark at around 200,000 to 300,000, including all of their
Camps.
additional camps, people
Uh-huh.
and cooks and things, 100,000 cooks and support staff.
Yeah.
So at this point, Mustafa was the Muslim general, the Grand Vizier, was counseled by his generals that you should probably defend yourself. And he says, "I'm not giving up on the wall. We're going to keep on going on that wall," which was stupid. And then
Which is dumb.
but as an added precaution, he decided to slaughter all adult males among the 30,000 Christian slaves in the Ottoman camp. So he massacred all of them, and just in case the Christians got the upper hand during the battle and the Christian slaves could turn on them.
Right.
And then the Muslims raped all the Christian women and then cut off the heads of all the old men and women who were slaves, just at the last minute. So the battle started early morning on September the 12th, and then the Austro-Germans, they're out to avenge what Vienna had been subjected to. They fought very fiercely, and the Turks and the Tartars, remember the Tartars? There was with the Russian Muslims. They were also fighting with the Turks. But by afternoon, it's interesting. Everybody just took a break because it was really hot for a little while, and then
You guys need a break? I could use a break. Yeah.
okay, cool.
But chivalry was a
Take
real
applause.
thing back then in wartime. Like it was something like, there was codes of war that
And even
everybody.
in World War II, you'd have a pause on Christmas Day, like
Right.
Right.
okay, Merry Christmas.
I mean,
Yeah, let's
You
play
know.
soccer.
I mean, so strategic ideas only went so far.
Sure.
Because otherwise you could have we'll just tell them Christmas Day we won't do anything, and then we go blow them up. But no, I mean, there was still this idea of chivalry of like there's codes to war, and we uphold it.
And then by afternoon, the large white banner emblazoned with the red cross appeared on the opposite slope, and all the Polish Hussars loudly calling on divine aid to the holy name of Mary and Jesus. They appeared to the Turks like a, quote, flood of black pitch coming down the mountain, consuming everything it touched. Another way to describe this is that he led the history's largest cavalry charge straight through the Muslim army because the Kara Mustafa basically gave him a big target. They had this huge flag of Islam right next to his tent, and so that way they could just aim all of their artillery and their entire charge right at Mustafa, which is exactly what they did. And they
cut off the head of the snake.
Cut right through the entire army. And then Mustafa ran for his life. And by sunset, some 15,000 Ottomans lay dead or dying on the ground. The rest, Mustafa himself, this man, quote, who thought to have invaded the Western Empire and carried everywhere fear and terror, fled as best they could back to Ottoman territory. And
I don't imagine he was welcomed home.
Not so much. So
the
camp alone, they'd been there for 2 months, was as large as Warsaw or Vienna. It was enormous. So he also left everything there for all the Christians to take. And then once he ran away, then he was strangled to death by his own Muslim army by the order of the Sultan on the 25th of December.
Hilarious. The dates, it's just, and I doubt they were doing that on, I doubt that they would want to do that intentionally on a Christian holiday,
No.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
It's just the way it worked
We
out.
happen to notice these things.
Right.
Providence. It's like, oh, that's brilliant. Thank you, Lord.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Well played.
So afterwards, the Christians, there's all this loot,
It is. And it's interesting because Sobieski could have really gotten a big head about it. I mean, he does have like vodkas named after him and stuff. I don't know if you've had Sobieski vodka as one of your drinks yet.
Oh, not here. Not on the show.
Maybe you could. But anyway, he's still an enormous hero in Polish history for good reason. But when he wrote to Pope Innocent, he decided to have a paraphrase of Julius Caesar's famous phrase. He says, back to Pope Innocent, we came, we saw, and God conquered.
Nice.
And that's actually carved into this enormous, like 30-foot by 10-foot painting of the Battle of Vienna in the Vatican museums. So when you go to the Vatican museums, don't run through all the museums just to get to the Sistine Chapel and the rooms of Julius II, the Raphael rooms. Pause. Take a look on your left. You'll see. You have to stand back to the other side of the room, and you'll see this enormous life-size portrait of Jan Sobieski and the Polish Hussars there after the Battle of Vienna. And carved above, you have the Psalm, and below you have "We came, we saw, God conquered."
What is that in Latin? Like
Veni Vidi
Venimus?
Veni Vidi Vici.
Well, that's
was,
I came.
Julius Caesar. I came. So he said
in plural it would be like Venimus.
So it's true, but I think actually he probably even said I came, like Veni Vidi Vici.
Oh, okay.
Veni Vidi, and then like it was Deus vincit. So Deus vincit.
So what would have been the ramifications if the Hussars did not go in, did not win this battle? What would have happened? Like why was this so significant in? Like, why was the Battle of Vienna so significant? If the Polish Hussars did not go in, did not destroy, did not conquer, what would have happened?
Probably the loss of Christendom. Probably the Islamization of the entirety of the continent.
We'd all be speaking a different language.
And Arabic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah,
and why?
that's how bad it is.
Why is that?
So that was the entire point of the invasion. So the point of the invasion is to make the world Muslim, and until it is, then you should still approach the world as just not yet Muslim. In fact, you have this idea that any place that had ever been invaded and conquered by Islam, even if they eventually, even centuries later, had been removed, like from Spain, that they have an obligation to reconquer Spain. So, and then also there's this idea of taqiyya, which is covered in this book as well, that if you're in a non-Muslim country, then also you can swear anything, to even get your children baptized, yourself baptized, go to mass every Saturday like they did in Spain, and until you have the upper hand, you can just pretend to be Christian, pretend to be Catholic. So that's part of the theology of sleeper cells as well. So anyway, they call it the Holy Name of Mary, and because the victory was on September the 12th, that's why that's that feast day. And to celebrate...
Was that Pope Innocent's
Pope
doing?
Innocent. So he initially inaugurated the feast day. We had that from the 1600s all the way until 1969 with Archbishop Bunini doing a lot of foolish things with the liturgy. And he removed it off the calendar. And the Polish Pope John Paul II, as soon as 9/11 hit, reinstituted the feast day of the Holy Name of Mary. And the like they did back in that time, the Viennese bakers, to celebrate, created croissants in the shape of the crescent moon. So every time you have a croissant, you should remember the Christian victorious defense of Vienna and the successful defense of Christianity.
So yeah, talk just a little bit
'cause
about.
We have a whole nother. We have one more segment that we.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But why did 9/11 occur on September 11th? Why did they pick that day?
It's like their way of saying the battle's not over.
Yeah, because that was the last day that the Muslims had possession of the West.
And a really good hope of conquering.
Right, and so they were saying, I remember this day. We're celebrating it.
Right.
We're still here. We're still...
So it's very
this
strategic.
mission is not over.
Right.
The battle's not over.
So if a faithful Muslim says 9/11, 1683, you know that that's pretty much a threat. It's kind of like if a Greek Orthodox says 1204 to a Roman Catholic, that means they're still bitter about the Crusade sacking Constantinople.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So if we don't know these dates, we'll look and are ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Right. So that's why I just think it's funny. John Paul II. Oh, I see what you did there.
Uh-huh.
Okay, fine. Well,
back on the calendar.
I'll put the Holy Name of Mary back on the calendar, and we'll whoop you the same way we did last time.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean that's so crazy that 9/11 happened. For a specific reason.
Right. It wasn't just a random day.
Right.
Which
It's
I
not
always
because
thought it
we
was.
dialed 911. Come on.
Yeah.
Right.
That's dumb.
Right. So when we get back, we will talk a little bit about how to talk to your coworkers about 9/11 that is coming up, and ways that's a great way to evangelize. So we'll be right back. We're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass. Speaking of, you could probably use a little bit, huh?
Yeah, if there's any left.
Yeah.
Are we going to go into more detail about the wing hussars themselves?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Their arms,
Oh, yeah.
We touched very briefly on the wings, but
We did.
it would be cool to just get into a little more detail.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should get into more detail about the actual winged hussars, and then your idea of the croissant's birthday,
Okay.
and that's
And there's...
Well, there's any false history that people try to put out there to kind of flip this whole thing around where we weren't in the right
And there's not a whole lot, because it's really hard to make that argument. So actually, even this book, this is the brilliant thing about this book, is that he doesn't use secondary sources. He uses primary sources. So it's like, what did the Muslim commander write himself?
Yeah.
So it's like, if you have a problem with that, that's what he said. So that's the nice thing about it.
Yeah.
Now,
it's not hearsay. It's like this is
And
what he said.
even the Muslim documentation will be very matter of fact. It's like, sure, we killed all those people and we killed all the Christian slaves, but I mean, that's just good strategy. You don't want 30,000 people possibly turning on you during the war. Yeah, we massacred 30,000 people, but they were slaves.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I get that.
So
I
it's
mean,
like, yeah,
I understand why they did
yeah,
that.
it's understandable. So like, they'll say, yeah, we did that, but I mean, this is all for the greater good of Islam. And there's this one part that I haven't mentioned that's really cool. This really ancient phrase, Aslam Taslam, which sounds ridiculous, but It is. So this is actually what Mustafa first sent over to the Emperor Heraclius, which means submit to Islam and have peace. And the threat is you do not, and you will die, and we will take everything of yours.
Mm-hmm.
So Aslam Taslam is also the same phrase that Muhammad used on his first battles. He would always just send that ahead to any town that he was going to conquer. Aslam Taslam, you want to follow Islam? Then I will spare your life and your goods. If you do not, we'll take both.
Mm-hmm.
And then I should probably also mention the fact that the reason why the Muslims were so successful over these centuries was because they had this idea that if you fight for Islam, then you become rich because you're going to get all this good stuff, or like you're going to be able to steal all this stuff from whoever, all this booty. And if you die in battle, then you're definitely going to heaven, because that's their idea of martyrdom, which is totally different from a Christian idea of martyrdom.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, okay, but if you die attacking someone else to make them Muslim or kill them, mostly kill them, then you're a martyr and you go directly to heaven. So it's a win-win theology of war.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, let's keep going. Last segment.
You ready, Juan? Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles here with Adam Minahan and Father Sean Donovan, priest of God. Okay. So here is the earth.
Round, you may say.
Round. So they wipe these people out. And the Christians in Vienna,
Okay.
they go out and are collecting the spoils of war. And what is it that they find?
Well, they found these strange brown beans that they knew were Muslim drink, that if you grind them and pour hot water over them, you can have a drink. And it's indigenous to the Arabian Peninsula and like Yemen and Northern Africa. And in ancient Arabic, the word is to lack hunger. Coffee, which back in the 1500s, it was 1500s, they brought a cup of coffee to Pope Innocent VIII. And they said, okay, we know, and this is a quote, this is not my own perspective, but they said, Holy Father, we know that this is the drink of the spawn of Satan, but what do you think? Can we have some?
Yeah, because there are some people who said Christians can't drink coffee.
Right, you can't drink coffee as a Muslim drink, you can't do that. So the Pope, also, he's an Italian, so, you might have already some predisposition to coffee. So he has a cup of coffee and he says, we will baptize this drink and make it our own.
We will cheat Satan.
We will cheat Satan, baptize this drink and make it our own. And ever since then, actually, from the 1500s on, with the Counter-Reformation and the Jesuits, that was one of the primary cash crops that the Jesuits would teach indigenous peoples to grow around the world in the proper climates, and created very wealthy new Catholic colonies.
Didn't he even make write a papal bull over it?
I don't know. Did
I've heard that he did. I've not seen it, but I've heard that he wrote a papal bull.
That's a great story.
In order to clear it up, because there was a lot of contention over Christians drinking coffee. So anyway, in Vienna they go out, they find this coffee.
Right.
And what do the local bakeries do?
Well, what goes with coffee? You got to have some pastries. So to celebrate, they have to create some pastries in the shape of the Muslim emblem or flag, a crescent moon.
Right.
So a croissant.
So the croissant, this is the birthday of the croissant.
So every time you have a croissant and a cup of coffee, or if you don't drink coffee, that's okay, but at least have a croissant, you should remember the victory in Vienna and the successful defense of Christendom.
Mm-hmm.
So croissants taste like victory.
Indeed.
Okay, so
here's
tell
what
your
I
story.
do. On September 12th, I will go to a local bakery and get some nice, because there's a difference between Pillsbury croissant. I mean, which I'll
They're okay.
I'll eat
They're
Pillsbury
fine.
croissant, but
Come to Pawhuska. We'll get you some really.
yeah,
good
if you go to a nice bakery, you can get, it's like, wow, now that's a croissant.
Oh yeah.
So I'll get a box full of them and take them with me to the office and pass them out and say, hey, do you want today? And what I'll say is, today's the birthday of the croissant. Would you like one? And most
Who's going to turn down a
most-
croissant?
and it's like, oh, that's a good looking croissant. So
Yeah.
people will say, sure. And I'll say,
Yeah.
yeah, so here's what happened. And I'll give them that quick story. So, the Muslims invaded they lost at Lepanto. They tried to come back at Vienna. Oh, no, but, they were going to lose. The Polish Hussars came in, invoked the holy name of Mary, and decimated them. And they sat around drinking coffee and eating croissants as a way of mocking the flag of the Muslim army, saying, I'm eating your flag, and so it's a great way to evangelize. It's like a sneak attack.
It is with pastries.
Yeah, just like the Hussars,
The
a
Hussars through
sneak
the wood.
attack. Yeah. So and then you tie it into 9/11, because
Right.
until that, if you have to tie it into 9/11, otherwise people think like, oh, it's just a religious story, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But once you say like that's why they attacked on 9/11, people, their eyes get big and like,
Now it's
What?
American.
right,
Right,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly, and they'll say, really? It's like, yes,
Yes.
that is why that they picked that day, because of this battle and because of the croissant, and so every year I like to do this, and it always works very, very well.
So let's talk about the Winged Hussars just for a little bit, because
Yeah.
what
Right.
an iconic cavalry.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I was asking my wife the
I
other
keep
day.
saying cavalry.
Cavalry. That used to be such a huge part of an army, and now it's like it's non-existent
Horses.
anymore.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's decorative.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
The cavalry
anybody-
became the tanks.
is there any?
Yep.
Is there any left?
Probably for fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think that.
Do you even think the U.S. has some?
Yeah, there are cavalry units, like not for war, but for like in major cities. Sometimes you'll see police on horses.
Yeah, but that's not like.
I mean, but they're on horse. I mean, and they do have. If you're asking, there are police and military units that are on horseback,
I knew
but they're
police
not.
did, but I mean,
they're
I'm
not
talking about
charging.
military.
They're not charging into battle
No.
on horses.
Okay,
you
but
know.
let's go over it. So
So
Father,
they had,
Helicopters
they had
work
these
a lot
really
better.
long pikes, right? So the pikes for distance,
Like a big spear.
big spear. You had a musket, you had a pike, you had also swords
Mm-hmm.
for really close combat. And like we talked about with the metal wings and the real feathers in the metal wings creating the white noise, so you could fire a musket right next to your horse's head. They weren't at all distracted or scared by the blast of a musket. So you had these fearless horses and fearless riders conquering anybody that came into their path through muskets, spears, and swords.
And the musket was a relatively new weapon.
Yeah.
I don't even think relatively. I think it was just a new weapon.
I mean, yeah, and it was actually, I believe, invented by the Muslims. I don't know that for a fact, so
know.
do not quote me on that.
I
but
won't.
yeah, I think that they invented the rudimentary projectile with gunpowder.
And I think if you want to go check out a full suit of winged hussars armor, you can go to the Chicago Institute of Art. They have a full suit of armor there, the winged
No kidding.
hussars. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Chicago because I was up there, walking through their military unit. Whew, look at that. I think I took a photo. I should have taken a selfie, but I'm not that young. So yeah, there actually are full suits of Muslim Hussar armor that you can find in museums. So well worth checking out.
Totally. So Juan, his son actually went as a winged hussar for Halloween this last
Which
year.
is the coolest that
Yeah.
you could possibly have for a costume.
Juan, did you make it all yourself?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It'd be tough. I don't know if you can just,
and we
go to a costume shop and pick up a
Right.
winged hussar.
but we did mention that they were undefeated in battle for 100 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, 200 years by the end of it. Yeah. Yeah, by the end of their kind of reign, the Hussars were undefeated by the very end of 200 years.
But it just everything about them except for the wings, it's like the Rohirrim from
Right.
J.R.R. Tolkien, I
He
think.
probably ripped it off.
I think had to have been inspired by
paid tribute to.
Yeah, paid tribute
Right.
to. I mean,
Right.
Exactly. Certainly in the movie, whoever produced the movie made because they appear on this cliff and they
yeah.
ride down this steep decline. I mean,
Right.
it sounds just like this into an army that was sieging a wall. And they just wiped them out so that they turned and fled. I mean, in the movie, you see these horses just plowing through it. I mean, it's almost like they're just running them over, and just plowing them down.
There's something about Poland, like Poland and Mary, and the combination. Like, I just pray someday, if it be the Lord's will, that my boys marry a Polish girl, because it just seems like that Poland is just so. I mean, they understand.
Well, like Dave mentioned that, King Sobieski intentionally began his ride down after stopping the Black Madonna in Czestochowa.
Right.
Now we're gonna go fight.
Right.
Yeah.
We could arrange something. My girls are in fact Polish.
That's true.
Yeah.
And you guys are not related.
That's true.
Hey!
We could go ahead.
We could go ahead and arrange.
We could
the
arrange
marriage.
this right now.
That would be.
Let me talk to my wife. But I'm pretty sure
That
it's.
would just add so much craziness to our friendship story. We're best friends. Now we live across the street from each other. Our kids grew up together, and now
we arranged their marriage. Yeah.
It's like the end of The Office. It's every parent's dream. Your kids grow up and they marry each other.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, that's the beauty of what they did, is they always were very intentional about invoking the name of Mary, and the Polish, Pope John Paul II was very clear in saying, no. Okay, if they did that, we're gonna bring back the holy name of Mary onto the calendar.
And how many Catholics would even be aware of this unless they listened to the Catholic Man Show, drank your wine, or best case scenario, did all the above and went to daily mass?
Thank you.
Right.
So if you go to daily mass, you're going to learn all these great things about the faith that you will miss out on.
Or if you read said books.
Right. You read a few books. So, yeah, those books are all very good. Actually, there's another book that Diane Moksar, I don't know if I'm pronouncing her last name correctly, Mozar maybe. So there's another book that she wrote that's called The 7 Myths of the Catholic Church, which is also excellent. It's much more popular, I think, much more well-known than this one. But this is kind of like a good kind of overall history. It'd be kind of like a Catholic compendium or companion piece to The Sword and the Scimitar. But if you just want to read about the Siege of Vienna, just read a book called The Siege of Vienna.
Okay, so September 12th is coming up next week. It's not this Thursday, but next Thursday. So make sure to show up to your office with croissants and coffee. And
It's
if you can't,
actually Wednesday. Or the 12th is Thursday. September 11th is Wednesday.
right, but you want to
Right.
drink the coffee and croissants on the 12th.
Why not both? Oh,
Why not both?
We're both and paid.
Yeah.
That's right.
And if you can't show up, at least in yourself have a coffee and croissant
Absolutely.
on the 12th. Go to mass and bow at the holy name of Mary
Yes.
during the liturgy.
That's right. General Instruction 285.
Hey, thanks so much, Father Donovan.
You
I appreciate it. It's a lot of fun. We're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So
So
raise
re-
your glass.
And cheers to Jesus.
Cheers to Jesus. All of our empty glasses.
That was awesome.
That was a
That was
good
fun.
cheers to Jesus I just did.
You did.
That was really good.
I felt that it was like I can really hit it.
Good pierogies. Let me tell you, I had a pierogi this week at let's see, I was in Pittsburgh at the airport, and it was Friday, and I was like, dang it, I'm starving.
Potato.
Yeah,
potato and
I can't
cheese.
do meat. And there's a barbecue place right there, and I was like, I either had that or this little hole in the wall place. I was like, I'll just go over here and see if they have some kind of bagel or something. And I looked on their menu, and there was a pierogi. And I was like, what? Yes, potato pasta is gonna fill me up.
Yeah.
I want pierogies.
Oh, and I was gonna say cover with nice sauerkraut, or sour cream, but you don't like sour cream.
Yeah, I mean it's okay.
I had scheduled a pilgrimage to Poland, but it got kind of consumed by, everybody heard that I was going to do a Holy Land pilgrimage next year, and so they're like, oh, we want to do that instead. So everybody went from the Polish, it was going to be Roman Krakow, went over to the Holy Land pilgrimage, but Have you all been to Krakow yet?
No.
No, I haven't been
The
anywhere.
O'Briens
Oh my
went
goodness.
because they found round trip tickets for like $300.
Yeah.
To-
And then
to
once you
Poland.
get there, it's nothing. It's like $10 is like a 3-course meal, and they give you free vodka at the end. It's not like free chips and salsa like you would at a Mexican restaurant. They give you vodka.
Way better.
Way better. And chips and salsa is awesome.
Yeah, so they went.
Yeah.
They were there on Easter.
Whoa.
They got
all right.
like, they just found these tickets and they said, "Well, I guess let's go to Poland." You know.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
That is great.
You know, when you're an empty nester, you can
You
just do
can
stuff
do
like.
it.
Well, thank you all for
Yeah.
accommodating the early hour as well. I mean,
Yeah,
it's so much
absolutely. It was a
easier to make it
blast.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to make sure to take pictures. I think we're good. Juan, we can go ahead and go up.
Did you want a picture for the show?
Sure.
I wore this shirt on purpose.
I like it.
Yes. Yes. We should have talked about that.
Yeah.
Like-
I did
We
this
love
on
you.
purpose.
Yeah.